of increased state costs and risk of school closures in Wanganui.
That's quite a sufficient explanation. Leave us sought to table that briefing to the Minister dated 4th of April 2011. Is there any objection? There appears to be none. Question number 5, the Honourable Annette King.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker. It's to the Minister of Health. Is he confident that the government's initiative to provide better, sooner, more convenient health care is meeting his expectations? If not, why not?
Come on, Tony.
Honourable Tony Ryle.
Yes, but there is always room for improvement, and I dare say it is possible we could get an example of that in the next minute. It's important to understand that, despite tight times, this government has invested an extra $2 billion into public health services, including achieving the third highest percentage increase of developed nations in the OECD's latest report.
Oh, very good.
Supplementary question, Honourable Annette King.
What is the basis for the claim that he made that more than $10 million per year will be saved through changes to the hospital food provision, when most DHBs have made it clear that, like the Prime Minister, they have no clue how the savings have been estimated, and the Audit Office yesterday reported that HBL needs to improve their transparency of reported savings?
Honourable Tony Ryle.
Mr Speaker, that advice comes from the HBL information that's been provided, information that makes it clear that the claim in the House last week that 50 hospital kitchens would close was untrue. Similarly, the claim that 1,300 people would lose their job was also untrue.
Honourable Annette King, supplementary question.
Is he aware that Meals on Wheels are also included in the contract, that the meals are to be plated, frozen and stored at 2 production plants before being transported and stored at a regional distribution hub, then sent to a hospital kitchen to be reheated before being delivered by volunteers to the clients? And how will this provision reduce costs and improve quality of food for those who receive it and pay for it?
Honourable Tony Ryle.
Mr Speaker, I think the member is jumping to assumptions like she did last week. What we know is that the proposal at the moment sees 65% of the food presented on site, which is cooked on site, which is the complete opposite of what the member told the House only a week ago.
Supplementary question, Honourable Annette King.
Why did he tell the public that the contract to provide hospital food from 2 production sites, as set out on page 33 of the HBL document, was, quote, in its early stages, when HBL have already shoulder-tapped the provider, who's already inspecting hospital kitchens, and staff have already heard from him last week, quote, some people may lose their job?
Honourable Tony Ryle.
Mr Speaker, because clearly it hasn't even moved to the formal business case process for consideration by DHBs. Let's be quite frank here. 50 hospital kitchens are not going to close, as Mrs King claimed. 1,300 people are not going to lose their job, as Mrs King claimed. And all the food is not being cooked at 2 production centres, as Mrs King claimed. I think the biggest apology that needs to come from this chamber today is the fact that Mrs King told so many stories last week.
Supplementary question, Honourable Annette King.
Talking of stories, when did HBL advise him that the contract to provide hospital food from 2 production sites that he denied last week, in a cook-chill style airline provision of food, with food being able to be kept in the fridge to up to 7 days before being fed to patients, could, quote, lead to negative publicity that could prove harmful for the Minister, as set out on page 52 of the HBL document, if you want a few facts?
Mr Speaker,
Honourable Tony Ryle.
Mr Speaker, I've been kept regularly informed by HBL of their activities. I'd have to say this to New Zealanders: the #1 priority in all of this is to maintain and improve the quality of food nutrition in New Zealand. That's why HBL has a group of expert nutritionists working with them in developing this proposal. The public of New Zealand were misled last week when Mrs King told them 50 people would lose their jobs, 50 hospitals would close, 1,300 people would lose their jobs, and when she said everything would be served to them frozen. What we know is at least 2/3 will be cooked on site, and that's quite a different story that Mrs King misled them last week. Number one priority, though, better nutrition for New Zealanders in hospitals.
Order. I have a point of order from the Honourable Annette King.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table page 58 of the HBL report, showing that all Meals on Wheels will be produced in production plants, that they'll then go to regional distribution hubs, they will then go to hospital receiving kitchens for reheating, then they will be delivered to the club.
That has been sufficiently described to the House. Leave is sought to table page 58. Is there any objection to it being tabled? There is none. It will be tabled. Question number 6, Scott Simpson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Health and asks, what progress is